Hey everyone, I'm here with Brianna Bernard. Hey Brianna,
Hi.
so glad to have you on today. Brianna has an incredible journey that we're going to explore today. And I think it's relevant because it's a weight loss journey, and this is an eating disorder podcast. And we're going to be examining Brianna's story of weight loss through an eating disorder appropriate lens. I think this is going to be just insightful, and I'm looking just to hear about you and everything that you've been through and all the exciting things you're up to nowadays. Like, oh my God, you got a lot going on right now. So you've really you've really done a lot. So happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
So you wrote to me that in high school, you had been anorexic and you went to a outpatient clinic.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more?
So when I was 15 years old, it all started when I went on a field trip for school. I think it was a week-long trip. We went to the Black Hills in South Dakota and camped all week, studied rock formations, and visited a bunch of different landmarks. And my science teacher organized this trip and then picked about 20 different kids to go on this trip. And he and another chaperone were in charge of all of us for the week, and we camped, and it was amazing. But on that trip, there was a lot of inappropriate discussion about my body from my teacher, and inappropriate touching from him. And that completely changed my perception of my body. It was probably one of the first times I really thought about the way that I looked and how other people, especially men or, boys, perceived me. And I came back from that trip a completely different kid than I left. And it completely changed the trajectory of the next couple of years of my life.
Damn.
So when I got back from that trip, I was very aware of what I was eating and how I was moving. Because we were hiking and camping, we ate at certain times every day, and I lost weight on the trip. I didn't need to lose weight. I was already a normal or skinny teenage girl, and I ended up losing maybe 10 pounds in a week just because it was so different than my normal routine. So when I got back, I kind of continued to eat the way that I had been eating, which was healthy. And it started out being pretty healthy at first. And I started exercising every day. I went for a 2-mile run every single day. And I just continued to lose weight from there.
Yeah.
And over time, it went from being like, oh, I'm eating healthy to I'm just going to start eating less because I'm losing weight and people are noticing, and it just kind of spiraled from there.
When you went to the outpatient clinic, how long were you there, and what were the biggest life lessons, things you learned? How did your life change after you left?
So it took a while for me to get to that place. I probably was struggling for a year, honestly, before anybody really took action on anything. My friends kind of started saying, oh, you lost weight. And then people from school, like teachers, the principal called me into his office to talk to me about it. And people were making comments to my parents, and coaches that I had were making comments because I was losing a lot of weight. And so eventually my parents, it's kind of, it's funny looking back. At the moment, I was a little bit devastated, but my mom had asked one of my boyfriend at the time, hey, what's going on? Do you know anything? And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure she's got an eating disorder. And my mom went and read my journal, which I wrote all these things in. And she's like, I'm really sorry, Bri, but I needed to do this because I love you and I want to help you. So my parents were amazing and took me to my primary care physician and said, okay, we're going to get a referral. And so I started seeing a therapist, a psychologist, and or not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a dietitian at the eating disorder clinic. And I would meet with all three of them every time I went, which was usually once a week. And I think the biggest revelation that we had was they decided to do a depression test. And I took it, and thankfully I was really honest when I was taking it, and it came back positive that I definitely had depression. And so they started treating me for that. And that changed everything. And I think I realized, and they realized, like, there's a chemical imbalance going on here that is part of the problem. And if we can fix the chemical imbalance, let's see what might happen to the eating disorder piece. And so they put me on antidepressants, and I became a new woman very, very quickly.
I love it.
It worked for me. I know drugs aren't the answer for everybody, but it was a game changer for me. I went from being this totally different person to myself again.
Antidepressants can get a really hard rap, but you're right. Like for a lot of people, they do like light switch was off, light switch is on now. Just the lights you're seeing way differently. Yeah, I should do a podcast on antidepressants. It's an important topic. But that's amazing to hear. Like, oh my God, I love hearing about your mom.
And my dad was equally, I should say my dad too, but I feel like my mom was probably the journal instigator.
Sure. And she didn't get frightened. She didn't like, what's going on here? She was like, all right, like, I love you. Like, we're going to take care of this. And she just,
I'm sure they were freaking out internally because they were just worried about me, but she was like a rock. She was completely calm and supportive, and they would drive me there because I feel like in the beginning of it, maybe I didn't have my driver's license yet because I was 15. So sometimes my parents would bring me. And then eventually I remember driving there by myself too, because it was in a different city because I'm from the middle of nowhere. And so we had to drive like 30 or 45 minutes to get to the doctor. And so, yeah, my parents were super supportive and involved and just very aware of what was going on and how can they support me. And
they stayed calm and didn't let you know that they were freaked out inside, which no doubt they were.
Yeah.
Stayed calm. And,
which was good for me because it allowed me to feel comfortable in opening up and sharing everything that had happened. And it all started to make sense to them at that point.
I currently work one day a week at a residential eating disorder clinic, and oftentimes the challenge is weight gain, meaning guys too skinny. And there's a lot of resistance to weight gain. There's a lot of, for example, like there's a lot of behaviors around peanut butter or carb foods because that might make them gain weight. In a nutshell, you gained a lot of weight after you were anorexic. So that, I don't know if I've seen that a lot. Can you tell me about that? Yeah.
I've really lived all ends of the spectrum here. I've been normal. I then was anorexic. Then it became normal again. And then I gained 70 pounds during my pregnancy. And I had already gained probably 20 or 30 pounds after I met my husband. I call it like the happy in love weight that sometimes you put on when you start dating somebody new. And that was very real for me. Um, Met my, at the time, husband, started dating him, gained probably 20, 30 pounds because my lifestyle had changed. I was going out to eat more. I moved. We moved in together after like a year. And so I wasn't walking. I used to walk to work every day, and that stopped because then I was driving because I moved to a new place. So a lot of things changed, but I still was okay. I was like, whatever, I'm up a little bit of weight, but I'm still good. I'm okay. I felt fine. I was probably a size 10 or so, which is probably, a pretty average sized woman. And so it was okay. But then I got pregnant after we got married. I gained 70 pounds during my pregnancy. And a year after my little boy was born, I was still 70 pounds over where I should have been. And so yeah, going from extreme, like I'm underweight to extreme overweight.
Yeah. And before we kind of resume the story with your son 1 year afterwards, before we get there, did you have resistance to gaining weight? Were there fears of gaining weight? The way you described it sounded like you were, okay with being, size 10 or average or whatever. Was there any of that going on, or was that kind of like, I don't know, dissipated?
That's a great question, because the former me, like anorexic Brianna, would have been mortified to gain weight,
Yeah.
especially like 70 pounds worth of weight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really didn't. Like, I had zero feelings of being concerned. And it's crazy looking back, because it wasn't like, oh, you gained like the normal, whatever, 30, 40, even 50 pounds, I think is pretty normal. I really didn't feel like this is crazy, what's happening. No doctor ever said anything to me like, you're kind of gaining too much weight. No one said anything. And I was just eating everything. I literally ate for like two grown men for 9 months. And I didn't have those feelings. I just figured after the baby comes, I'm going to get back on track and the weight's just going to fall off. I'm going to start nursing. I can start exercising again, because I was super sick. I think that was part of the reason I was okay with it all. It's because I was so sick during the first half of my pregnancy that I was like, anything I can keep down
like
and just not feel nauseous.
And nausea. Yeah. Okay.
Just like morning sickness. Like
Got
being
you.
pregnant.
Got you.
And so I was like, if I can just keep this down and not feel nauseous, I don't even care what it is. I will eat it. And so miraculously, I didn't have those feelings of like, oh, I'm gaining weight.
Yeah, I hear you. So that is incredible. Yeah. Cool. That I guess it was the antidepressants. That seems to be a huge part of the healing. It switched and yeah.
Well, and just knowing like, hey, I'm having a baby and like I'm supposed to be gaining weight right now.
True.
It's like, well, I can't be losing weight at this point. I know I'm going to have to gain weight in order to do this. And and just knowing that like
bells going off. There weren't any alarm bells or anything like that going off. Yeah.
No.
But then eventually, I don't know if it was an alarm bell. Maybe you could tell me more. But he turned 1, and at some point you're like you weren't okay with it. You went to the gym at some point. What led you going up? What led you to change your mind?
So, like I said, I kind of thought, well, the baby's going to come and I'm just going to lose the weight. And it didn't happen like that. He was turning 1 and I was still, holding on to that baby weight. And I thought, this isn't just going to happen. I'm going to have to do something. And I felt really stuck, not only in my weight, but just in my life in general at that time. I not only was 100 pounds overweight, but the week that my child was born, I knew that my marriage wasn't going to last. And so there was a lot of emotions going on.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was a stay at home mom and I didn't have a job. And so I wasn't sure how I was going to get out of that situation. I just
Yeah.
felt super stuck. And I thought, well, what can I control here? I can control how I move my body and I can control what I eat every day. And so I was at the grocery store one day and picked up a copy of People Magazine's annual How They Lost 100 Pounds issue. And looked in there, and there was a woman who had also lost over 100 pounds. And she lived in Minneapolis and worked out at a gym that was like 40 minutes from my house. So I looked up her story and decided to hire her personal trainer and started going to that gym. And I thought, if this guy can help her lose weight, then maybe he can help me too. I see so much of me in her. And if this is going to work for me, then this is where I need to be. So I decided that it wasn't going to be about weight loss because I had tried to lose weight and was unsuccessful in the past year that I was, holding on to all that baby weight. I would start something and I would do it for a week or so if I was lucky, and then I would fall off the wagon and go back to my old habits. So I knew that I'm going to need to think about this differently. I can't keep trying the same thing, like, oh, the goal is to lose weight, and then I just keep failing at it. I need to change something. So instead, I made it about self-care. And I decided that 2014 was going to be the year of self-care. And I was going to take care of myself. And the moment I stopped trying to lose weight, I lost 107 pounds.
Right? Isn't it a freaking paradox?
Completely.
And it has to be like genuine. Can't be like, I'm gonna pretend not to care about weight loss so I lose weight. No, you really have to care about yourself.
Right. And it's about the habits that, instead of trying to fight all this old stuff that keeps creeping in, I'm going to build this new human being. And these are the new normals that I'm going to create in my life. I go to the gym. I eat healthy. I log my food. I drink 100 ounces of water every day. And I meal prep. And this is my new thing. This is the new normal. And over time, those things got much easier and they felt more natural, and it didn't feel like such a pull from who I was. It just became me. And the weight started to come off. And I realized if I just continue to do this most days, then, in 5 weeks from now, I'm going to be 10 pounds lighter because I'm losing 2 pounds a week. And so I just kept going. And I thought, I already know what it feels like to give up. I have given up hundreds of times. I have failed at this hundreds of times. But what would happen if this time I didn't quit? And it changed everything.
Yeah. Changed your whole life.
Yeah, it really did. And, within 3 months, I was down 30 pounds. 6 months later, I had lost about 50 pounds. And then before my 1 year anniversary at that gym, I had lost 107 pounds.
It changed your body, changed your relationships. Before we kind of explore how your life changed, because it really did change a lot, how did you avoid perfectionism? It's really, really typical when someone is losing weight, especially with a history of anorexia. I imagine that it'd be like, oh my God, I didn't, I went over today, or I didn't do it perfectly, or I blah, 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 like that internal critic that, too high standards leads to impossible. If it's impossible, you quit. How did you avoid that? How did you avoid that mentality of perfectionism?
It's a huge mindset shift. And I had to essentially break up with that part of myself. And stop the judgment, stop the limiting beliefs, stop all the negative thoughts that were coming into my brain. And it wasn't about being perfect. And at some point in my journey, it stopped being about being skinny.
Huh.
It stopped being about being thin, and it became about being strong. And instead of focusing on the number on the scale, I was focusing on how much weight can I bench press? How much can I deadlift? And I was more excited about those numbers. How much water can I drink today? Can I drink 128 ounces of water today?
How many cups is that?
That's a gallon of water.
Gallon. It's like a milk jug of water. Holy crap.
It is a milk jug.
Wow.
And so I started focusing on different things instead of, focusing on, if I woke up every day and weighed myself and was like 97 pounds to go, that would have been completely depleting and I would have given up. But instead, the focus wasn't on the scale as much as it was on being strong and focusing on different numbers to measure my success.
I love it.
And if you're trying to be strong, you can't be a little toothpick, thin, skinny, anorexic girl and be strong. I wanted to be ripped and I wanted to have muscles and I wanted to be able to double my body weight in a deadlift. And so it became about different things for me. And that was how I kept it from going back down the path of an eating disorder.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Kind of like you had this previous history of an eating disorder, so you knew it's like, no, I can't do that way. Like you really you're coming from. I could actually see how your background with the eating disorder might help you do this the right way, and because a lot of people,
so true.
A lot of people
It's
they're gonna
so true.
They get. It's tough. You're on a path, and then you get hit, like you have a bad day and you feel terrible and then you quit, but I'm hearing any words of wisdom. You said not quitting. And I know you just spoke about it too. You changing the focus and discovering things that you like to do and changing the focus. Any other advice or thoughts on how to avoid quitting? And then let's explore how the rest of your life has changed since then.
In addition to just not giving up, I think that one of the biggest revelations for me has been that no matter what it is, whether it's losing weight, my weight, but it has gotten me to do lots of hard things. If I can lose 100 pounds, I can do anything. There is nothing in this world that I cannot do.
Yeah.
And when you apply that and you channel that energy for good and in a positive way, it changes everything.
I love it.
I think another thing that that really resonates with me as well as the people that I coach is to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
People are so hard on themselves. They are bullies to themselves. And we need to stop. People talk to themselves and they say such hurtful things, and they would never, ever in a million years speak to somebody else that they loved that way. And it's really hard to listen to on a regular basis. And I tell people constantly to be kind to themselves and get out of your own way. You are the problem. You are the only thing that is stopping you. You have all of the support. You have all of the education. I'm giving you everything you need to be successful at this. But you need to step aside and quit being a bully to yourself And
Oh,
you can do this, whether it's you're overweight and trying to lose weight, or you're underweight and need to gain weight. People are super mean to themselves, and we all just need to give ourselves a little bit more grace and kindness.
I love it. Oh my God. So true. Oh my God. So true. I'm so thankful we're talking today, because this is how you think. I really believe that this is how you think about, I even hate to say weight loss, because think about weight loss as if weight loss is a goal, but this is how you think about your body and your health and how to live, really. I mean,
Yeah. And it's a choice. People, talk about motivation and how, no, I just don't really feel like it. Well, it's a choice. Like, oh, I just want to be happy. Happiness is a choice. And, so is the way that you decide to think about yourself. You're choosing to feel negative, hate your body, dislike the way that you look, or whatever it is.
yeah.
You are the boss of that, and you can change it. This is just a bad habit. This is not who you are. You're not doomed to a life of unmotivation and hating yourself and being mean to yourself. But you have to actively train yourself to think differently, because it's not just going to happen. And you can have those thoughts, but just do it anyway. You can feel unmotivated and not want to go to the gym. That's okay. You don't have to love it. You don't have to want to go. You just need to do it. You don't have to want to eat chicken and broccoli for lunch, but it doesn't matter if you want to. You just need to do it. And it doesn't matter if you don't feel confident, or if you don't feel good in your skin, or if you don't like the fact that you're overweight, or your jeans are a size 22. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like it, but you can choose to love yourself anyway. And you can choose happiness, whether you're 100 pounds overweight or underweight or the perfect weight. And that is the key to overcoming anything.
Anything. Yeah. That you can practice and rewire. I love it. And this whole journey, you mentioned this earlier, it impacted you and it changed your whole life. You mentioned some stuff on the website, marriage, the way you, or no more marriage, change the way you parent your child. You did competitive powerlifting. You've done, let's go through some of these and just kind of, so you've already talked about the way it changed the way you feel about yourself. What about the way it changed how you parent your Ty, right? Ty, was it?
Yeah. My little boy is 7. He's 7 now, and he was 1 when I started on this whole path. And so, it really has impacted the way that I parent my son, because 1, he doesn't remember anything different. He's always grown up in a house where mom eats healthy.
I saw him lifting with you in like a photo on your website, BriannaBernardFitness.com. Like, there's some photo. He was like lifting with you, or he's like lifting a toy and you were like lifting weights or something like that. It's hilarious. Like,
yes. So he has kind of grown up around weightlifting, being at the gym. He spends a ton of time at the gym and has his whole life. But he eats really healthy too. And he's a big part of the process, because my most important thing in life is being a great mom and teaching him about having a healthy relationship with food and exercise, so that hopefully he can grow up much differently than I did and not go through the highs and the lows of weight loss and weight gain that I did. And of course, none of that is guaranteed, but some of it is in my control. So I know that if I want to teach him those things, I need to lead by example. And what better way than to get him involved in the process? So not only does he go to the gym, but he comes and trains and we work out together, and he wears
like accountability partners.
He seriously motivates me some days to go work out. When I don't feel like it, he's like, Mom, can we go to the gym? Sure. And so it really has become like the driving force, and it's a big part of our relationship and what we bond over.
Oh my gosh.
And same goes for food. Like he
Wow.
loves going grocery shopping. He loves going to the farmer's market and picking out new things to try and come home and meal prep together. And he loves cooking. And obviously he can't do everything. He's 7, so I'm not giving him a knife and having him cut
Sure.
veggies, but he can mix things and he can dump ingredients in. And he's more likely to try new things if he can be involved in the process.
What's his
And
favorite meal?
if you ask him what his favorite food is, he will tell you that he likes broccoli and that is his
Broccoli.
favorite food out of
Whoa.
all the foods. Broccoli, it's a thing. And he eats oatmeal for breakfast with protein powder and powdered peanut butter in it. He eats egg avocado toast. He eats lots of turkey burgers and
He's
chicken.
naming my diet right now. He's naming what I eat. It's
Yeah,
so good.
he's a really, really good eater.
That's so
And
funny.
I credit that to the fact that since he was 1, he's been eating hard-boiled eggs with me and eating hummus and sugar snap peas with me. And that's kind of all he knows.
And what about, you mentioned earlier, I mean, talk about after he was born, you knew within 1 week that your marriage was not going to work. That's a powerful statement. I can't imagine that time of life.
It was rough.
Yeah.
In addition to just having all of the normal pregnancy hormones, I also had postpartum depression and anxiety, which I kind of assumed I would be
at risk
more susceptible to, just
Yeah.
because I had a history with depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
And so that was hitting strong. In addition to, I have this newborn baby I'm supposed to take care of, and I'm exhausted because I'm not sleeping, and I know my marriage is going to fail. And so while I had all these great, like, oh, I'm so excited to have a baby and be a mom, at the same time, there was a lot of really hard things going on. So after I lost all my weight, I had, like I said, this realization that there's nothing I can't do now. If I set my mind to something, I can do anything and I can figure it out. And so I left my marriage and told my husband I wanted a divorce, and I became a single mom. And I went back to school to become a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, and started working as a trainer, helping people, lose weight and build lean muscle and live healthier lifestyles.
Wow. That's amazing. And you've gone on. There's a beautiful story that one of the things that got you to the gym in the first place was, I believe it was a story in People magazine.
Yes. So I found the trainer that I worked with through a story in People magazine in their How They Lost 100 Pounds issue. And 5 years later, my story was featured in that very same issue.
That's so like mind bending. Like, what? What?
Yeah, totally nuts. If you would have told me in the grocery store that day when I picked up that magazine.
How do they contact you, or do you contact them, or do they just, somehow it happens, but how does it happen?
We contacted them with my story and said, I was inspired by another story from this magazine, from this issue. However, we kind of just pitched it as like, maybe this would be a cool Mother's Day feature or something like that. And they said, actually, we're picking for our How They Lost 100 Pounds issue right now, and we would love to feature your story.
That's awesome.
I went on
that's
this,
like divine or whatever, like.
Yeah, it was completely divine. And just, got so many cool opportunities from that press that came along with that, and the launch of the magazine issue. So it's been quite a wild ride since then.
And that's amazing. What do you got going on now? I know, so you're at BriannaBernardFitness.com. What else have you got going on? I mean, you're just getting started here.
So I have started my own business, and I am a personal trainer in the Minneapolis, Minnesota, Twin Cities area. But I also train people online, and have a majority of clients that I train virtually, send them workouts, and I also do nutrition coaching for them. And that has been just such an amazing experience to be able to connect with people literally all over the world, and help people not only lose weight, but really transform their minds and their hearts, because weight loss is temporary if you don't focus on the mindset shifts that need to come along with that, because most people have something that has impacted them or affected them in their lives that has ultimately shaped where they're at with their food and why they eat emotionally or why they don't eat, or we all have a story, and if you can get that story out and help them overcome the deep dark things that have impacted their health, then you can change them for life. And that is where real transformation happens.
That's what I love about, I'm doing binge eating, but the way you're talking about it, it is so good. Like getting down to the root and seeing changes, like physical changes. It is such a good field to be in.
Yeah. And I think it's just empowering to say that I've felt those things. Not only have I been anorexic and experienced that, but I always say that I am a recovering emotional eater.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been a person who binges, because when you deprive yourself, then when you're exposed to certain things, you go crazy and it feels like the Last Supper and you have to have it. And I certainly have never had an alcohol addiction, and don't know what that would feel like, but I can say that I am addicted to food and I know what that feels like. Yeah. And I think it's really powerful to learn from somebody who really gets it. Yeah. And that's why I think I've been able to connect with so many people and help them transform their lives too.
Mm. I love it. That's a wrap. Where can people find you on social media? And again, the website, Brianna Bernard Fitness, but where else can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Brianna Bernard Fitness and on Facebook at Brianna Bernard 100.
And silly question, but if you had 3 weightlifting exercises, you could only do these 3 weightlifting exercises for the rest of your time in the gym. You can pick compound movements. You can pick, whatever you want, but you only got 3.
Great question. I was just talking to a client about this yesterday, and I told her that deadlifts are definitely one of them. If I could only do one thing ever again, it would be deadlift.
Okay.
But in addition, because I'm a power lifter, I really do love squatting as well. But I would change it up, and I would say if I could only do one, it would be the split squat in particular. And then my third exercise, I would say push-ups. I really like
that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you got your back with the deadlifts already.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. I really just admire the totality of everything that you're piecing together and the way you think about it. I had some concern initially. I was like, oh crap, like another weight loss story. Not another one, but just like sometimes weight loss guests, they've lost weight, but they can't articulate as well about the emotional side and that aspect. So just really wanted to thank you about it. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you again for having me.